Overwatch is terrible, and it's all Blizzard's fault. Wait, I'm supposed to pad out the runtime of the video, aren't I? Damn it! So, let's take it from the top. Back in 2016, my friends were talking about this game that was coming out in about a week. Usually we only played Nintendo games, so I was curious as to why they were so interested in an FPS. I looked up some trailers and gameplay to see if there was anything I'd like in the game, and I immediately fell in love. The graphical style was really nice, and the characters' abilities were also interesting. Characters like Genji, Bastion, and Hanzo really intrigued me. I also fell in love with the idea surrounding the character of D.Va. Running around and flying through the air in a mech? Sign me the hell up! That sounds metal as shit! So it turned out at the time, the game was in the middle of its open beta, so I downloaded Battle.net and logged in. I was loving all the cool heroes, the beautiful technologically advanced locations. I was trying out a new hero with every match, and doing pretty well at all of them too. The game officially launched, and I bought it day one. I started to find my footing with certain characters, and developing a list of mains. It was a concept I had been familiar with, since at the time, I was big into competitive Smash Brothers. I seemed to gravitate more towards support heroes, but in the end I had a pretty wide array of heroes that I could comfortably play among the different classes. Lucio was my go-to, but I was always down to switch to other roles like Reinhardt, Mei, Soldier 76, or even some other support heroes like Mercy and the ever-controversial Symmetra. So it's pretty clear from all this that I have a certain fondness for my first time playing Overwatch, and it didn't end at the launch either. I was avidly playing Overwatch for most of its first year. I'd log on almost every day to get some fun games in, and I'd have laughs with my friends. I even enjoyed myself with the competitive mode, even though I wasn't all that good. So what happened? Why title the video like this if I have so many fond memories with Overwatch? Overwatch has changed. A lot. It's not a game that's being supported for players like me anymore. That's a pretty vague argument on its own, so let's take a deeper look at the altered design philosophies of the Overwatch development team, and even some of the botched practices they have in place today. Overwatch is not designed to be an inherently fun game. Not anymore, anyway. You're not supposed to be having fun in every game of Overwatch, and the developers have made this abundantly clear. For example, let's take a look at Quick Play. Quick Play is the casual mode in Overwatch. It's also the main game mode if you're not into playing competitive. At launch, Quick Play allowed for multiple of the same heroes to be played on one team. While most of the matches you got into were full of people trying out their favorites and playing casually, some of the time you'd enter a game where one goofball would pop into the team chat and say, "Hey, let's all play Winston." And that was absolutely hilarious to me. 6 giant gorillas jumping around the objective, trying to fight off the enemy team without any healers. It was wildly entertaining. But a lot of the more serious players decided that they wanted to use Quick Play to practice for their competitive games. There's nothing wrong with wanting that practice. It makes sense to want to try out new heroes or new tactics in a game that's being taken seriously, but isn't going to bomb your rank if you lose. The problem lies with Blizzard's solution. Blizzard decided they were going to turn Quick Play into this practice mode. It made the competitive fans happy, but it also meant that Quick Play now had to adhere to the rules of competitive. So as an example, now only one of each hero can be chosen on a single team. That might not seem like a big deal, but suddenly Quick Play became another competitive game mode in Overwatch. Granted, it was an unranked game mode, but because of its rebranding, so to speak, Quick Play was now no longer about enjoying the game. It became about practice. And player behavior also altered because of these changes. Make sure you don't try to learn how to play a new hero or pick a bottom tier, because your teammates will be sure to let you know that you're a piece of shit, and your opponents will utter those magic words at the end of the match, GG, easy. Suddenly it's not about having fun, it's about winning. Now there's an interesting topic. Winning is something we're going to come back to in a bit, but first, if Overwatch doesn't want to be a fun game, what does it want to be? I've already mentioned that Overwatch's biggest issue is that they're not trying to be a fun game anymore. And what I mean by that is that it doesn't concern itself with making gameplay mechanics that are fun. It's trying to be a sport. And if the hours I've spent playing Super Mario are anything to go by, I don't like sports. Overwatch is trying to capitalize on the esports market, and they're also attempting to become the head of that community. To do this, the gameplay has seen changes that affect the meta and nothing else. Pro players are screaming about Symmetra. Let's redesign her ability so many times that she's no longer the same character anymore. Thanks, Blizzard. Guess I no longer get to play one of my favorite characters because she's a totally different character now. Man, Bastion's too strong. Never mind that he doesn't move and he has no more health than any other hero in the game, let's nerf him into the ground so that he can't do anything unless he's pocketed by like 4 other players. These changes weren't made because the development team looked at their data and calculated necessary balance changes. Instead, they logged into their forums and read the top posts. This is an awful way to balance your game. Honestly, it may sound wonderful that Overwatch is listening to fans, but it's not going to lead to accurate balancing because honestly, players don't know what the hell they're talking about. Genji main 227 doesn't have any access to all these stats that Blizzard has. He just knows that he's constantly getting bodied by this character and doesn't know how to deal with that. So that means that Blizzard did a bad job at balancing and they should fix it. This works the other way around too. Ana is probably one of the most interesting characters in Overwatch, because among all of the healers, she's easily the strongest. Mercy's heals got nerfed hardcore, Moira is too concerned about getting kills, as a support hero, and Zenyatta and Brig barely heal anything at all. Lucio is the only other well-balanced support hero because his speed boost and general ground speed / wall riding make up for his lackluster healing. That, and he could heal multiple people at once. The other support heroes are not nearly as strong because Blizzard's too focused on their offensive moves rather than their support and healing ones. This gives those healers disjointed movesets and leads to games where our healers got more kills than the DPS did. While the players are partly to blame for that, it wouldn't be an issue if the healers were actually built around the idea of healing. Now let's take a look at a game that surprisingly handles character balancing really well. Now get ready for some mood whiplash when I tell you that the next game we're talking about is Super Smash Bros. I must be crazy! Super Smash Bros. Is notorious for having some of the most broken character balancing in video games. Meta Knight in Brawl, Bayonetta in Smash 4, all of Melee. But all of those issues have helped Masahiro Sakurai and his team create a truly fair and balanced roster right from the start. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is one of the most balanced video games I've ever played, and it's basically been that way since day one. The community has created a tier list, but at the average level, none of these characters are broken and none of them are useless. Every single one of the 80 plus characters in Smash Ultimate is viable. Even characters that counter other characters don't do so in ways that make it impossible to win. Pikachu is much faster than K. Rool, but don't let K. Rool catch you with one misinput. Hey you Pikachu, more like goodbye Pikachu! Piranha Plant might outrange characters like Ryu, but Ryu's deadly combos can spell death for any character. However, this doesn't stop those player-created tier lists I mentioned. King K. Rool was a major talking point when the game released. Same goes for the Belmonts, or Piranha Plant. Hell, every time a new character is released, the community explodes into, "Wow, he's so broken, please nerf!" But they are literally always wrong. Remember when people said Ridley was going to be broken? Yeah, how'd that turn out? According to Sakurai himself, no fighter is below 40% and no fighter is above 60%. As for one-on-one matches among VIPs, the lowest win rate of any character is 43.7%. The highest win rate is 56.8%. Sakurai isn't looking to see which character the community is whining about, he's making changes based on the data that he's collected. King K. Rool is not broken. His win rate is only 51.9%. I don't know about you guys, but winning half of your matches doesn't sound like easy mode to me. And this is what Blizzard either doesn't understand or refuses to understand. They do what the community asks because they think that will help the game grow and make players happy in the long run. But that mentality is making these reworked heroes unfun and frustrating. When was the last time Sakurai reworked a whole character in the middle of a game's update cycle? Never! Because that's stupid! Why would he do that? Balance isn't the only problem though. Let's go back to that topic of winning that I spoke about earlier. And we're also going to keep using Smash Bros. As an example. As I said earlier, the goal in Overwatch is to win. Now the goal in many games is to win, Smash Bros. Included, but the problem isn't that you can win a game of Overwatch. The problem is that, because of the way that the game is designed, you're not having fun if you're not winning. Okay, but what's wrong with that? Just get good, loser. Fair point, but counter argument. If the only way you can have fun is by winning, then you shouldn't be surprised that 50% of the players in a game aren't having fun. So why is Smash Bros. Any different? In that game, you could have up to 8 separate players and only one of them is going to win. Well, it's different because Smash Bros. Isn't a sport. Sakurai and Nintendo never wanted Smash Bros. To be a competitive game. Hell, Sakurai doesn't even consider it a fighting game. It totally is, but it's also a party game. and party games have vastly different design philosophies behind them. There were almost 0 intentionally competitive elements implemented into Super Smash Bros. Before Ultimate. We didn't even get patch notes, for Christ's sake. That's because the competitive community created itself. It wasn't directly created or even supported by Nintendo. This lets Sakurai focus on making a game that is fun to play, instead of worrying about how the pros feel about the game that he's making. When you finish a game of Smash, you're not mad that you lost, because you had a blast playing. Especially if you played a free-for-all and had items on and were playing on some crazy stage, because then you certainly weren't concerned about winning. But that's okay, because the game never tells you that you have to win. The only place where the game lets you know that you should be taking winning seriously is in Elite Smash, which is entirely new to Ultimate. Overwatch has decided that it's going to continue to update the game more and more in a manner where winning is the only thing that matters. And like we've clearly established, that results in only 50% of people actually enjoying themselves. A game needs to be fun first and competitive second for everybody to enjoy it. It's important to note that making a game more sport-like is not 100% a negative. There are plenty of people that love this style of game. My friend Alex, who you've probably seen in some of my other videos, loves Overwatch. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's safe to say that Overwatch definitely brought in an audience of players that it wasn't able to hold on to. So, does Overwatch suck? Maybe a little, but it's not unredeemable. A few months ago it might have seemed hopeless for many of its casual fans, but recently Blizzard has been taking steps in a better direction. The Workshop is a simplified script writing tool that allows the user to create whatever game type they can think of. Want some Pokemon? We got that. Hilariously broken RPG games? We got that too. Hot chocolate?
Hey, we got it!
The Workshop brings across a feeling that I haven't felt while playing a shooter in a very long time. And if you grew up with Halo 3 or Halo Reach, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. This mode brings about so much more creativity and fun to Overwatch. Something that was sorely missing before. Yeah, the characters and world are pretty imaginative, but how much freedom and creativity is left to the player in the base game? Arguably none. The Workshop helps to alleviate the problems that the Overwatch dev team has created by giving the creative control to the user and letting them create their own casual and fun experience. Although I'd still argue that without a map editor, it's not quite where it needs to be yet. Regardless, I want to see Overwatch succeed. But in order for that to happen, I think the dev team needs to take a good look at what they're doing and shift some gears into a different creative direction. It's not a total dumpster fire, but it will be if they're not careful. Before making this video, I uninstalled Overwatch, and I think it's going to stay that way for a really long time. Maybe someday later down the road, they'll start adding things that are more my style, but until that happens, I think I'm done with Overwatch. Ah, goddammit.